Before you go any further, look below and click the subscribe button. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on Savvy the Business Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Ambers. And as always, we love to have you listening to us, joining in, sending us your comments, questions, and anything that's on your mind. Today, we are on with Miss Ardre Orie, and she is a celebrity ghostwriter. And I came across her on Instagram. You know how I do. I scroll through and I stalk people. So I started stalking her for a little bit. And I said, you know what? I want to talk to this lady. I don't know why, but I want to talk to this lady. So I was able to reach out and connect with her, and she was gracious enough to join us today. So let me read you some of her bio, and then we're going to jump right on in. Ardre Orie, known to the world as the Queen of Storytelling, is a celebrity ghostwriter, book publishing expert, media maven, and CEO and founder of 13th and Joan Publishing House. Is to create platforms and media for mass production and amplifies marginalized voices. Orie has written and produced literary works for a host of clients, including VH1, MTV, WETV, Bravo, BET, CENTRIC, YouTube, the NFL, NBA, and Grammy Award-winning artists, as well as a bevy of entrepreneurs and everyday heroes. As the product of a single parent home and childhood survivor of domestic violence, she recognized that there was great power in the transparency of her pain through storytelling. Her goal is to create platforms and media for mass production that amplifies marginalized voices. In 2015, Orie founded 13th and Joan, a multimedia publishing house, to provide a vehicle for aspiring authors, playwrights, and film directors to tell their stories and distribute them on national and international scale with her support and guidance. In this capacity, Orie and her affiliates have coached several hundreds of aspiring writers across the finish line to become published authors and publish over 200 books. Wow. Ardre Orie currently resides in Atlanta, Georgia with her husband and two daughters and a loving son in college. All right. So, now that we've gone through this huge background of yours, tell us why you decided to pick ghostwriting as your go-to.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I always think it's a joy when the storyteller gets to tell their story, his or her story. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes. And, ghostwriting actually chose me. I didn't choose it, much like many of us. I was in search of purpose and not really realizing that it is the one thing that you do without thinking about it. I think Oprah may have said at some point that our purpose is just under our noses. It's so obvious that we cannot see it. So I had resigned and gone to school for education, and I was an assistant principal at an elementary school. And I resigned from that position searching for more, to be honest. Motherhood took me to a place that made me realize that I wasn't super happy in my capacity. I just wanted more. I was always an educator, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to touch more people, and I didn't know how that would work. So I tried my hand at entrepreneurship immediately after resigning, and launched a nonprofit. That was in 2009. Right at that time, a recession happened. And sometimes, there are people who believe that nonprofit means no money or for free. So I learned that the hard way, doing so much for free. And then I had to start to understand what entrepreneurship really meant, and that you had to be earning something in order to be of service or continue to even do your business. So I decided to write a book, honestly, because I needed to market my business. And I was really looking at some of the magazines, and I just didn't have the budget to be a part of those magazines. So I wrote a book because I figured that I could get this book into places that I could not. So after writing the book, I built a community around the book, and the book signing was actually really, really something special, especially for someone who had just kind of been in this space, in the literary space. And after I did that, I had a cohort who asked me, they had a friend who was, or client who was going to be on a new show on a major television network. Would I be able to help that person get a book done in 30 days? Or better yet, would I be able to write it for them? And I'm like, well,
Oh,
since I
wow.
don't have my job anymore, I guess I'm available. So I got that book done in 30 days, but I didn't realize that it was a show that would be breaking into the industry, and that there would be so many eyes on it. So it became word of mouth, and that was VH1. And then it became MTV, WeTV, and it just went on and on. But it was really because someone asked me if I could produce a book in a record amount of time, and I did that. So I didn't realize that was ghostwriting at the time. I didn't even know there was a title for it, none of that. But as I kept doing it, as I kept creating these books for people and writing as though I were them, then I recognized, wow, there must be something more to this. This is an actual service. This is a business. And that's how the ghostwriting aspect of my career grew.
Wow. Wow. I mean, to write a book in 30 days, people take years to write a book, and you went knocked it out the park in 30 days. Wow, that's amazing. How I mean, what did you, what inspiration did you find? I mean, when, for one, they come to you in 30 days, you're like, "Oh, wow. Okay, let me see if I can do this." What was the driving force behind to really every day get up and push and research and do all the things behind the scenes that so many people don't see or realize to do this? What was that driving force to say, okay, my opportunity, I got to make it happen. I have to get this done.
Mhm. That was just it, opportunity. I just had a call with my team today, and I said, a lot of times we take opportunity for granted, but opportunity is a gift, and it doesn't mean that it's going to happen again. So anytime you have an opportunity, it's your calling, it's your duty to really make whatever it is that you think should happen manifest in that space. So I was at a place where, I was a person who really, my worth was tied to being able to generate an income. And so after resigning from my job and going into the nonprofit sector, I wasn't seeing that same income. I wasn't even having financial success, to be honest. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was taking, from my grocery budget to try to buy snacks for the students we were servicing, all those things. And so I really didn't feel that great about myself. And this wasn't just what you said, it was an opportunity. And so I needed to bet on myself. I needed to prove to myself that I was worthy of doing something aside from the job that I had been trained for. And I needed to take that risk on myself. Had I not done that, I don't know how things would have turned out. I'm sure, things would have all been fine. But we all have those moments where it is a challenge, but we need to do it not for anybody else, but strictly for ourselves, to know that we can reach, new levels. And that's
Yes,
what that
ma'am.
was.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. I mean, I love how you what I want to say how you put it, because it's kind of like that thing that we would think is common sense, but that goes without saying. But but the opportunity, regardless how great, small it is, you never know who's watching. And to shift a little bit, is prime example is social media. Everybody's on it, everybody's doing their thing, however they choose to do it. But you don't understand and realize, I hear so many people all the time, oh, well, I'm not going to act like that on my business page, but on my personal page, I'm going to do what I want. I'm like, that is a representation of you. Do you not understand that that's public, that's out there, it's on the internet? And in today's world, when someone wants to see what you're doing, they're not just going to say, okay, let me go to your personal page and see what you're doing. They're going to look, they're going to poke and click on every single thing that your name come up just to see what there is, what's happening. And that circles back around to the opportunity of, one, you never know who's in a room. You never know who's watching you digitally or in person. You never know who's talking to who about you. So, taking on that opportunity, like you said, open up so many doors. And we have a lot of people now that want to write a book. Some people just write it to write it. Some are writing it to become an expert or to better their business or their career. What advice would you have to someone that's looking for that opportunity, but just looking at the glamour side of it, if you will, and not realizing the whole bucket and everything that surrounds that?
I always tell people that you've already written a book. If you have a social media account, you've already written a book, because just as you said, people go to your social media pages even before they go to your website. It used to be that if you didn't have a professional website, you weren't qualified professionally. And I still believe that to be true, but your social media should also match and align. But many of us don't realize that we've already written the book. All of the content is embedded in our pages. You've posted a lot of things that you needed to hear for yourself, whether that was something inspirational or information that you wanted to share. You've shared stories about your personal life, when you needed someone to reinforce or to validate, whatever the case may have been. So I tell people all the time, you've written a lot of the content. Now, why would you give it away for free is my question. The
Wow.
second part to that is, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the glamorous piece of it all, as long as you recognize that your calling, everyone's calling, is to help others to navigate life. We are all walking, living, breathing testimonies. So whatever it is that you want to have happen as a result of telling your story, if you want to, be able to post pictures because you had a fabulous book signing, that's great. But if your book is about domestic violence and it talks about, a woman who was able to get through and triumph, well, great. Put the flashlight, put the spotlights on that. I don't ever think there's anything wrong with serving people, as long as we keep service at the forefront. How you serve, that's your business, but service has to be at the forefront. And I really think that we're already writing. We're all storytellers. Every time you pick up the phone to call your girlfriend to say, girl, let me tell you, you're setting up a story. You're going to give her a definitive beginning, middle, and end of the story, along with all the details. So we're all storytellers, but we don't realize it. And the problem that I see primarily in our community is that we haven't learned how to monetize the information that we have. You should not go to an event and have nothing to sell, no product. It doesn't make sense. You're networking in rooms full of people, whether that is pre-COVID, where it was really full of people, or whether it's virtually and you don't have a link to drop to say, hey, I have this body of information. Even if it's a book of affirmations, a book of poetry, a book of one-liners, it doesn't matter. But why not create a line of residual income for yourself? And lastly, we're all looking, how can I scale my business? How can I grow? I'm looking for the bag. How can I secure the bag?
Yeah.
You are the bag. You are the bag. So secure yourself. So that's what I always say to people. There's never a question in my mind as to whether or not you should write it. It is just making sure that you write the right book and that book aligns with your one message. We all get one big message that we get to share. And so what is that? What is it that you want to say if you have the spotlight?
Wow. That is so good. And I'm going to go back to your media kit. As I was scrolling through, I came across this page, and I think it is so necessary right now. The best way to predict the future is to write it yourself. I love that. And it goes to say, nobody can tell your story better than you can. Nobody can tell your story better than you. Um, for someone that is stuck, and like I said, they have that story, they have that thing that they want to get out. What what advice could you give to them on getting unstuck, or maybe some type of exercise or something that they can do to get out of that place to help push forward?
Sure. So I am a big advocate of investing in yourself. If you want to get to the next level, you have to invest. You can spend 24 hours on Google. And yes, you can find some information, but you could, have solved that same problem by making an investment in yourself and getting a coach for whatever it is that you're trying to do and solve it in a smaller amount of time. So, I think about things from two perspectives. One is when I first started as an author. First book I wrote, I was 10 years old. And so that's how the love for writing, the love for telling stories developed. That's when it was first the seed was first implanted in me. And then from there, publishing a book as an adult, because I was coming out of that career, had a young family, I just didn't have a lot of money to invest in something outside of the house. So I finally found one company who allowed me to put down a down payment. And I said, just hold this, because I promise I'm going to come up with the rest and I'm going to come back. And it was so crazy because me being willing to make that investment, to step out on faith in myself, I received a check that I did not know was coming from the work that I had previously done with the nonprofit that someone forgot to send to me. And it was the exact amount that I needed to pay off the price of my book.
Come on.
So I say that because I think a lot of times we're looking for free information, and that's great, right? It is there. But sometimes you have to just make an investment in yourself to align with the people who can get you where you need to be. That also means doing your research. Now, based on social media, we have a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants, a lot of life, this, that, and the other, and a lot of people who promise results. So make sure that if you do decide you want to make an investment in yourself, research the track history of people, research the results that they've gotten, look at their clientele, see if their clientele even comments when they say what it is that they've done. All those things can help you to know if you're making a good sound decision. But at the end of the day, I'm going to advocate for investing in yourself. And I know what it means to do that when you don't have it per se. But I saw what happened for me by willing, to just step out on faith and make an investment. It changed my life, literally changed my life. Because when I wrote that book, that one book opened the door to a career that I could have never imagined. So I'm an advocate of investing in yourself.
Wow, I'm so glad that you hit on that about, these coaches. Everybody's just throwing the name coach in front of their name, and everybody is not meant to be a coach, and everything that you do is not coaching. And just because you decide to adopt that name doesn't mean, I should say word, doesn't mean, that you are who you say you are. So, I know the word stalking is not really a good word, but I stalk people. I do. I go on social media and I see what you're doing, how you're doing it. Like I said, the comments, look at your track record. And sometimes I connect with people, pretty quickly. And some I'll watch for a minute. I'll just kind of look around and watch for a minute, see what's going on. Because I promise you, somebody's doing the exact same thing to me. I can promise you that. And just because somebody doesn't like, comment, share, or do any of this social media stuff does not mean that they're not watching.
Oh,
So
sure. Sure.
keep definitely, I just want to put that, definitely keep that in mind. Don't forget that. Now for, ghostwriting, like you say, it's behind the scenes. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not gonna put myself out there as a writer. I have two books, but I'm not putting myself out there as a writer. Is
Okay. Well,
behind the scenes, it's more than just sitting down with a pad, pen, or your laptop, tablet, or whatever it is that you're using. That there's times where you have to take that time to do research. And throughout that process, of course, depending on what you're doing, you may have to invest in something in the middle of that process to learn something or to figure out something or to get to those next steps. Would you say that that is, a typical process? I won't say normal for everybody, but maybe a typical process that you have to go through these stages. And some books, just because she said she did in 30 days, don't be sitting thinking, okay, I'm going to write this in 30 days. That's not meant for everybody. Disclaimer, okay? But what would you say that behind the scenes piece, includes some of those things? And what can people look forward to when you decide, okay, I'm going to push this book out, I'm going to tell my story?
mhm. Sure. I think that research is always a part of it. It really depends on the type of book. If you are writing a book to establish yourself as an expert in something, I think you should, take time to make sure that what you're giving to people is accurate, because you're going to want to stand on it. And you never want someone to come back and say that they learned something from you that was not correct. So if that means that you need to do more research, if you need to educate yourself more, absolutely. I think that's always worth it because you want to make sure that you stand on your word and that you're able to really validate everything that you've placed in your book. I also say, don't let that be the thing that stops you from moving forward, because sometimes we can use that as an excuse. Well, I've got to do more research on, X, Y, and Z. And I don't think that that should be a reason to stifle you. That is why, I work a lot with our clients on writing the right book, because sometimes your specific experiences qualify you in such a way that you don't necessarily have to research someone else's. And so it may just be fact based, or it may just be statistics, or whatever those things are. There are also other ways to make that happen faster by outsourcing those pieces of research. You don't have to be the one to do the research. You can hire someone to do the research and bring back the results, and then you validate them. So there are lots of ways to work smarter, not harder, in making that making that happen. Now, when it comes to what you can expect when your book is done, that really goes back to what you set in motion before your book ever started. I always tell people, let's look at Michelle Obama becoming. She was forever first lady. She was fresh out of the White House. And in October or November, I can't remember, of 2018, she told the world that she was going to be writing a book. We did not get our hands on that book until 365 days later. And so her team was very intentional about the marketing of that book, and they took an entire year to prime us. The book performed in excellence, as we would expect, right? It broke all kinds of records.
Yes.
But I use that as an example all the time because I know that we don't necessarily want to market for 365 days. But if a woman, a queen who was at the pinnacle of fame and notoriety, decided it was good for her, well, then we certainly can enlist in a 6-month marketing plan before our books are ready to go. So I think a lot of times we believe that because people comment and they like and they say, oh, great, we're so excited, the moment you announce that you're writing a book, that does not always translate to sales. We have to be very intentional about who we're selling to. Far too many times, authors, business owners say, my business is for everybody. My book is for everybody. It's simply not true. Not everyone is interested in your story, and that's fine. You need to alleviate the people who are not. And so it's very important that we recognize who we're talking to and whose problem we're solving. That is the key to writing a successful book. You must solve a problem for someone. Those problems could be that I need to be entertained. Reality TV, does it not solve a problem for many of us? Absolutely. If you watch it, you want to be entertained. That's the problem that's being solved. Maybe it's that you want to be inspired. So then you can watch something regarding soul food Sundays or whatever. Or you need to be educated. So educated, inspired, or entertained, those are the ways that you touch people through your books. Sometimes we just say, this is the story I want to tell. That's great, but who are you talking to and what problem are you solving? If you can ask those questions, you will never go astray when it comes to writing your best book. When you do that, what you can expect paid speaking gigs. You can expect to be receiving media, press and media attention. You can expect to create a residual income. You can expect to transform that information into a course or curriculum. You can expect to create a masterclass. You can expect increased engagement on your social media. The list goes on. There are no limits to what you can expect, but you must be strategic about what you want to have happen before you can have any expectations for how your book will perform.
Man, I wish you was in the same room. I give you 2 high fives. I mean, but it is so true. And when, and this is with anything that people do. So many people get inspired about the glossy and the glamour side of things, and you're seeing the what's up front. You're seeing all of the glitter and shine and all of that, but you don't realize everything behind the scenes. Everybody want to be a Beyonce and she this and she that. Do y'all not know how hard that girl works?
Decades.
Even after she pushed out them twins,
Yep.
how hard that girl works behind the scenes to put all of this stuff together. Yes, she do have a team, absolutely she do, but she still have to do a lot of work with planning. Not on forget the financial piece of it, but just the planning and making sure everything is there, the props, the outfits. Trying on all these different outfits to be sure it's what she wants, it's gonna move the way she wants. I mean, so many things behind the scenes that get her to where she is. It's not just, okay, here, y'all go work on this and let me know when you're ready. It's a lot more behind the scenes with that. And when I have clients to come in here to the marketing studio and they want to, talk about their branding, it's the same thing. We go into the foundation. Do you understand what you're really doing? Did you put that rebar in before you poured the concrete? Or did you just pour the concrete on top of some dirt? What did you do? We're trying to figure that out. And until we figure that out, it's no need to look at a website. It's no need to look at a logo or colors or any of those other things right now. We need to figure out and go back and put this rebar in and make sure that it's lined right before we pour this concrete. So the same thing with writing a book. As a coach, how do you take your clients back when they come to, hey, I just want to write a book? How do you stop them in their tracks and take them back to be sure that they really understand the foundation piece before they start putting pen to paper? Do you have a plan to pivot your business? Come to the marketing studio. Not only will we help you create a plan to pivot your business, but we'll also help you to enhance your brand. The marketing studio. Go to our website, www.smginc.biz, or you can send us an email to media@smginz.biz. See you soon.
Well, so when it comes to the story structure, there are two foundational pieces. I feel that people deal with books and brands separately. In my mind, that's not a separate conversation. Your book and your brand is one conversation. And so the first part is with the brand, it's a simple question. Do you want to make any money from this book, or do you want to make any impact with this book? And if you can tell me no for that, then you can write whatever you want to write. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to build a brand. Sometimes people literally are just writing the book because it's something that they need to get out. It's therapeutic. We had a lady who, she was working on her book for years and years and years, and we don't allow that at all. But she legitimately just wanted to document a story. She didn't have a desire to sell it or any of those things. Yeah. Fine, if none of those things are of concern. But if you are looking for your book to make an impact in the world with various people, you want it to grow your brand, then we have to look at the meat and potatoes of what you have. So when it comes to story structure, there are specific elements that stories should have, fiction stories. Mm-hmm. Those books should not be done without those elements. The same thing goes for books that are nonfiction. There are specific elements and key things that need to be included in books for them to be taken seriously. So we make sure that those elements are there. We have an internal team who won't even send the book to publishing if you don't have those things. So you can't even get past the gates if you don't have those things inside your book. When it comes to the branding, we always say, now, if you don't want to sell any books, then go the way you're going. If you want to sell books, then we need to talk about strategy. So we just kind of have those gatekeepers there, those constant reminders, and really bringing people to reality. I mean, look at the marketplace. It's so crowded. Thousands of books are being produced each day. So what's going to make your book different than someone else's? And that's very, very important to consider. So we always have to come back to basics, always, and foundation.
Yes. I mean, I'm glad that you clarified that as well, because so many people don't realize that is still a brand that you're building, and you have to understand that. And if you want to make money with it, okay, let's do this the right way. Because so many think, okay, well, I'm gonna write a book. Let me just pick up my tablet, start writing, or start typing on my computer, and try to get this story out. And that's just so far from that. But with post-COVID, we know there's so many stories out there. I mean, we could probably create another 3-story bookstore with the stories that people can share just from coming out of 2020. Post-COVID, we don't have as many book signings and gatherings and all of these things, pre. So, how would you, going digital, what would you suggest to someone that's having issues, that's trying to get their book out there? The book signings just are not there like they used to be. What would you suggest to someone that's sitting in that spot right now, that wrote a book, is ready to go, but, you know, where can I go?
Sure. So one thing is, the first thing I would say is absolutely do not own the spirit of defeatment, because book sales have skyrocketed. We have seen such an uptick in sales, even as a publishing house, a publishing company, because one of the things that happened is COVID made people realize two things. One is that time is not promised. And then two, I have a little more free time than I thought I did. Working is different. The way that we work, where we work, and how we do that. We've looked at productivity. So I would first of all say, do not allow yourself to be fully discouraged. The second thing is that if your books are not selling, it's just because you're not talking to the right people. One of the strategies or systems that we often employ as soon as someone says, my book isn't selling. So one of the things that I notice is that even when authors write books, they don't always have the skills and strategies to market or sell the books. They're not professionals in that space. So I started an agency, which is an extension of the company, 13th and Joan Agency. And that is all we do in that space. So we teach authors how to market and sell their books, or we do it for them. So we do things like, the virtual book signings, strategic marketing plans. We help with branding. But first, take a look at your book's brand. Take a look at your book's description. Take a look at your book's cover. Take a look at your book's interior design. A lot of times, if you did the book, there are things that could be improved about it. So that's one place to look. The second thing is, make sure that your book and your audience, whoever you're talking to, does actually match. We have some people that even after publishing, they realize, you know what, that's not who I'm talking to, or my audience is a little different, or I need to shift. So that's the second thing. Third is, find other authors who have similar messages, or their message would be beneficial to your audience, and latch on to their audience and offer your audience in exchange. This is a big trend that's happening in the industry right now. An example of that may be, maybe I am a life coach, and I've written a book about living your best life, and then I partner with someone who has written a book about yoga, a yoga instructor. Our books are not competing, but our audiences are the same. And so what I would do is partner with that person to do a series of live. Maybe we're going to do, for 1 week, we're going to go live and we're going to do yoga. And then I'm going to lead you through some guided instruction or guided activities on how to declutter your life. So it's things like that. Collaboration became really big digitally in 2020, and it's still thriving in that space. So you can do that with multiple people. The other thing is, when you have a book, people don't realize you should either be in a launch or relaunch stage at all times. So you should always be launching your book. People think that you have one book launch. You don't. If the content you've written doesn't expire, and most likely it hasn't, then what are you going to do to relaunch it? You've got to reinvigorate it. So we're always helping authors to launch or relaunch. And that could be something simple. That could be, now I'm going to update it. Jennifer Lewis, who is on not Grownish, Blackish, right? Jennifer Lewis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's phenomenal. So one thing she did with her book is she changed the cover. One cover, I can't remember what color the first one was, but she changed the color and relaunched.
Same book.
Mm-hmm. Same book. To my knowledge, it was the same book, but in many instances, people will do things like that and relaunch it. So some people may say, "Oh, I have the one in yellow. I want to get the one in purple now." I just love to have it on my coffee table. So you have to be innovative and know that there are no limits. But your book is not selling because you're not tapped into the right people. And when you get that right, that's a game changer.
Yes, ma'am. When someone is writing a book, one, why should they hire an agency or a publishing company, and how do they go about researching which company would be best for them?
Sure. So one of the things that I always tell people is that it should feel right. You know, we were given a soul and a moral compass for a reason, and far too often we ignore what we feel. You should feel good. Your story should feel good in the hands of a company. That is why people are willing to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to carry a certain type of bag. It makes them feel good, right? If you think about it logically, you know, would you really spend what you pay in rent on something that you would carry on your arm that has no value? Maybe, maybe not, but it feels good. And so we're willing to do whatever it takes to feel good. We should follow that. So when it comes to choosing a company, you should feel good, number one. Number two, you know, researching the track record. What is it, you know, what have authors been able to accomplish? And I'm not talking about New York Times bestseller. You know, a lot of us, we like, oh, okay, I want to be on the New York Times bestseller. You don't know the sacrifice that it takes to be on that list. One of those sacrifices being income generated from your book in
Mhm.
the initial stages. And that's something that a lot of people are not aware of. The initial stages, you know, of your book, that is a high income generating time, but you compromise that if you are looking to do those kinds of lists so that you can be attractive to bookstores and such. So that's fine. But find out how many authors have gotten across the finish line, how many authors have actually gone on to publish their books, because you have to remember the marketing actually comes back to the author. Even the publishing companies who've been around for 99 years, the way that their marketing looks for authors today and the way that it used to look, where it's like, we're going to put this $1 million budget together and send this author on a book tour, that's not really happening anymore for authors, especially first time authors, because people have an opportunity to really do their thing on social media. You know, you can leverage a lot of power on your own. So you want to look at what companies have been able to accomplish for their authors, how many have actually finished their publishing number. You know, that's one thing. The other part of it is really understanding what your needs are. You know, some companies match those needs differently. If your need is to be coached through the writing process, you want to find out, do they have an author coaching program? And what does that look like? How can you be supported through the writing process? What is the timeline? How long is it going to take you to complete whatever it is that you're doing? So that's another thing to take into consideration. And then the other part of it is, you know, when it comes to even making the decision to not write it yourself. You may say, well, you know what? I don't want to write this, or I don't have the time to write it, or I have the budget to invest to have someone else write it. I literally have been sending, I was joking with a cohort the other day. I've been sending, there's a lot of CEOs that enlist ghostwriting services. I've been sending them screenshots, scrolling how their manuscripts, like, hey, your manuscript's coming along. Look at all of this that's been written. And they're out doing other things. They're running their businesses, they're building their brands, they're engaged in interviews, but they can market their books with the confidence because they see that it's being done, but they're not lifting a finger. They're not trying to bang it out. They don't have an interest in doing it.
Right.
So that's something else to take into consideration. Now, when it comes to marketing, and publicity, I always think that authors should know how to do it. It doesn't matter if you're deciding to hire someone else. Even if you hire someone else and you don't know what's supposed to be being done, how are you going to manage or oversee that process? So we do a lot of educating authors on what should be being done, so that if you want to outsource it and hire someone, great. Or if you want us to do it, great. Or if you want to do it yourself, you have the skills to do that. But at the end of the day, there will never be a person to sell your book and your story better than you. So that's always something to keep in mind.
Okay. What about authors that just simply don't have the budget to hire an agency or anyone to help them with writing the book? So they may of course Google and decide to say, okay, let me research on how I can self-publish. What do you say about someone that don't have the budget? How can they really work through that?
I would say make sure that you find a way to spend the money on creating a quality book, because even if you self-publish, you still, the book is still a representation of you. So people, they will sell a book, and then somebody say, oh my gosh, they charge $20 for this, it's a pamphlet. Or we talk about people, I'm not saying we in the publishing industry, people in
Right.
general. So your book is always going to be an extension of you. Find the absolute best that you can with what you have. That was what I did. I didn't have a budget to publish a book at all. I really didn't. And so I decided, well, I know what I want this to look like. I know the level of quality that I want for it. And we have, the self-publishing industry is absolutely booming. I think that you have to make a decision though. Either you are going to learn how to do everything and take the time to do it, or you're going to invest in someone to assist you or give you the skills to do it. Either way, it comes down to being willing to put in the work to create a strategy. There's a ton of information online. There's a ton of information that can be found even through social media. But do not do nothing. You must be doing something. You must be actively promoting your book. You must be building your tribe and finding those people who will support you. And you must not get mad because it's just your family and friends. Did by every family and friends. That's not your business. That's not your audience is not family and friends. I want people to know that, business owners, sometimes we get mad with people. This person didn't support me. They are your friend because they liked you as a friend. They didn't sign up to buy your book or support your business. If they do, that's icing on the cake, but they're not obligated to. So I literally have friends that I don't talk about business at all to them, because that's not why our relationship exists. And we have to get out of, really expecting people to operate in spaces that they were never called for. So you have to do the research to make sure you're talking to the right people. If you're not solving anyone's problem, if it's not, your specific friends and family, it doesn't pertain to them. And as with some generations in past, with like, my mom and generations before her, sometimes they don't even know what you're doing, because it's like, wait a minute, what? Social media, what? So it's like you have to be realistic about where you are, what you want to have happen, and then you have to put together a strategy. Budget or no budget, you need a strategy, and it's free to do that. So strategy.
Come on now. Oh my God. Especially when you hit the part about family and friends, because I hear this all the time. If they buy, great. If they don't, great. But some of them get so hung up in they have a super, super supportive family. Everybody may buy, whatever they buy. And now, oh, great, I'm in business, I have sales. I don't care. The people that know me, I don't care what they think. I don't care. Well, I don't want to say I don't care, but what they think is not what's going to really make that your business boom. It's the people that don't know you that participate, buy, and give you feedback. Because the people that know you, they're biased. That's just the reality of it. They are biased. I mean, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the people that don't know you, that's what's going to really make the difference on your product, your service, your book, whatever it is. That's what's going to really make the difference. Oh my God, this is such a great conversation. Time has flown by. What would be a last nugget you would want to drop to someone that has written a book and it didn't do so well or is thinking about writing?
Yeah, for those who are thinking about writing, just do it. Don't let another day pass you by. Find a way to get it done and make sure that you write the right book. For those who have already written the book, just know that your book is not, it does not expire. Your story, your message, your information, it does not expire. So you have the opportunity to continue to promote that. Think about it this way. Has McDonald's ever stopped promoting French fries? They haven't. The French fries have been around for so long. They still promote fries, and they're some of the best fries ever. I try not to eat them, but they have great fries. So, I mean, it just goes to show, though, that you can have the same product. You just have to continue to breathe new life into it. You have to continue to show people why they need it and how it can help them. I don't know how fries can help people. They make me happy. Maybe that's what it is, but you have to show people how you can help them solve their problems. At the end of the day, the goal for all of us is to be a resource. You know, we are called to tell our stories. We are called to be living, breathing testimonies, as I've said earlier today. So you have to do that. Your story is the rent that you pay for being on this earth. You do not get to have experiences. You do not get to learn new information. You do not get to overcome trials and tribulations and tell nobody. You don't get to do that. Your story doesn't even belong to you. And so we get so caught up in thinking that it's about us. It's not. We don't have to even search for purpose. It's right here. We are called to help people get through life. We're called to help one another navigate. And how do we do that? By telling our stories.
Oh my God, I'm just so excited right now. Tell everybody how they can connect with you, work with you. I mean, just all of that good stuff.
Yes, well, you come on, everybody. I am the queen of storytelling. I've made it very simple. The spelling of my name is a little different. I'm Ardre Orie, but you can find me on all social media at the Queen of Storytelling. The company is 13th and Joan, and you can see our body of work. You can see the way we inspire authors and just who I am as a person. I just know what I would have liked and all the things that I needed as an author, as an adult author for the first time. And so that's the company that I created. I created what I wished I would have had. So you all come on and bring your stories to us, lay them right on at the altar. We have you. We are ready to receive you.
Amen.
Let the church say amen.
Thank you so much.
You, Queen, for having me. I appreciate you, and thank you for providing this platform because we need to be able to exchange in this way. So I don't take this moment for granted, and I thank you so much for creating this amazing show.
Thank you so much.
So, Ardre Orie Retreats, I'm so excited. The winter retreat is actually going to be in Miami, Florida. We're going during the time of Art Basel, which means that there's going to be creativity all over the place. Art Basel is a phenomenal time where artists, flock to Miami, and we're going to be there December 3rd through 5th. And we are really excited about helping queens to set the intention for the new year. These are ladies who are going to be releasing books in the new year, and they will get some phenomenal writing time done and really be ready to go, making sure they're writing the right book and that their brand is on point so that when it is new year, they can pop out and be ready to go. So if you want to join us in Miami, it is not too late. Go to Ardre Orie Retreats on Instagram, and we have a drop-down menu that you can reserve your seat at the table because we've got stories to tell.
Do you want your business in front of an international audience? Advertise with us today. Savvy the Business Podcast. Send us an email at media@savvymag.biz. That's media@savvymag.biz. Send it today. Don't get left out. Thank you for joining us on Savvy, the Business Podcast. If you want to be a guest, send an email to media@savvymag.biz. That's media@savvymag.biz. Don't miss out on the opportunity to be heard by millions.